first House of the Dragon Season 2 teaser trailer has given us a fair bit of information to work with, as much of the content used in the trailer can be used to corroborate some of the leaks that have happened over the last few months. There is a couple of leakers in general who, with the new information we have from the trailer, now have a very high hit rate when it comes to the validity of their leaks. But while we can surmise quite a lot from the teaser trailer and can work out where a lot of the clips are from, there are still moments which have left fans a little bit puzzled, namely due to the lack of context we have for them. For me, one that jumped out is the shot of Rhaenyra at a dinner table wearing her crown with almost a sly looking smile. I think the reason this clip stood out to me is something about it just seemed a little bit off. Where most of the trailer can be placed, this is one of the few clips where it's a bit harder to do so. So this is when I took to Reddit to look for answers. And while what I found certainly has its holes, it's a very intriguing idea I feel would be interesting to delve into a little bit to see if it actually works. Multiple users across Reddit and Twitter have theorized that that shot is in fact not Rhaenyra at all, but in fact Alys Rivers. But first, who is Alys Rivers? In short, Alys Rivers is supposedly the bastard daughter of Lord Lionel Strong. She is a serving woman at Harrenhal with a keen interest in potions and is a woods witch. However, some sources dispute the claim of her parentage, and instead one source even goes far as to claim that Alys is in fact from an older generation and that she served as a wet nurse to Lionel's sons, Harwin and Larys, and possibly even Lionel himself. That Alys was an enchantress who bathed in maiden's blood to remain youthful. But something all the sources agree on is that Alys looks unusually young for her age, as she is said to be at least in her 40s by the outbreak of the Dance of the Dragons. However, I do suspect that in the show she will not be this old. It is unclear what path the show will go with Alys. Is she going to be a woods witch, or an old but young looking wet nurse, or perhaps just a clever, well-educated woman whose talents as a healer have been misconstrued by the people around her as magic? I suspect they may take elements of each to form her character in the show. But without going into spoilers, Alys is a key part of the Harrenhal plot, and thus, when Daemon travels to Harrenhal during Season 2, Alys will be there. Now, there is a reasonable amount of fans across both Twitter and Reddit that have all said similar things when it comes to this single shot of Rhaenyra in particular, that it just seems off in some way, with some even putting forward the body language is not how Emma Darcy normally portrays Rhaenyra. While I don't personally agree with the sentiment, and don't personally see this, as I think it's impossible to really dissect that from such a small clip, I do, however, perhaps agree with the idea that something does seem different with this shot. I will circle back to this bit in a minute. The fan theory in regards to Alys I have seen mentioned independently now several times is that this shot is taken from Harrenhal, and it is maybe from a scene of Daemon having dinner with Alys. Now, if they do indeed go down the woods witch path with Alys, it could possibly be that at this dinner she makes herself look like Rhaenyra as a way to mock Daemon, which would explain this apparent change in body language and performance that some have claimed. Now, I really do like this idea on the surface. It is definitely something I could see Alys doing if she is indeed a woods witch. But that does not mean I am completely sold on the theory itself. However, while none of the Redditors or Twitter users have pointed this out specifically, I will give this idea a little bit of credit in the sense that if you do read the leaked audition scripts of Alys and the way she mocks Daemon, specifically about Rhaenyra in it, it definitely fits the vibe of her character to do something like this. But for a second, let me elaborate on why I don't think this idea really works. There are just so many other ideas that make much more sense before we can come to the conclusion of Alys. For example, we know from set leaks that Emma Darcy filmed scenes at Harrenhal, which does not happen in the books, which is why I think some fans have come to this Alys Rivers conclusion. But the truth is, there's loads of reasons as to why Rhaenyra herself is there, even if she didn't go near Harrenhal in the books. Rhaenyra is going to have a much more active role in the TV show than her book counterpart, so I suspect Rhaenyra will be at Harrenhal to maybe meet and treat with the Riverlords herself, rather than letting Daemon do it on his own. It's an easy way to give her a more active role without really needing to change the story too much to allow it. Also, if you really take a good look at the still of Rhaenyra, while we cannot say for sure where she is in it, to me at least, it looks a lot more like Dragonstone than Harrenhal. If you take a look at the clip of Daemon at Harrenhal from earlier in the trailer, the two places seem quite different, with the location in the still of Rhaenyra not run down enough to really match Harrenhal's look that we have seen so far. In truth, while I enjoy the concept of this being Alys, and hey, maybe the show could do something similar with her, there is just so many other things this clip could be that make far too much sense. It could simply be Rhaenyra at Harrenhal, or a small council meeting at Dragonstone, or a number of other things. In fact, there is an idea that I have that makes much more sense than Alys. But it does involve a non-book spoiler. A reliable leaker has suggested that Rhaenyra and Alicent will have scenes together in the final episode of the season in a last-ditch effort to avoid any more bloodshed, with this meeting apparently happening on Dragonstone. Well, for me this opens up more questions than answers, and I'm not really sure how the show's going to make this work at all. I think this clip might possibly be from that scene. At this stage, it's all just speculation. That is what I enjoy about this period of build-up towards Season 2 of House of the Dragon. It's full of possibilities and evokes interesting conversations and debates. While I think this Alys Rivers idea is a bit off the mark, based on nothing of real true substance, I do enjoy the concept of it. But what I want to know is your guys' take on this idea of Alys. Is there any merit to this idea at all, or is it just totally off base? Are you happy about the changes being made to Rhaenyra's role in the story? Let's talk about it down in the comments.